Great to be here with you on this Wednesday. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, glad you are with us. And we are loaded up here on the show. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll hear from Buck Belue, formerly the last quarterback to win a national championship for the University of Georgia. Now he's a party of two, Buck Belue and Stetson Bennett. We'll talk to Buck coming up here in just a little bit on the show. Also, we'll break down Ben will break down Brock Bowers and his performance over the course of the season. Also, Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, will join us. We'll talk about the significance of breaking that 41-year drought for the University of Georgia. And John Lastinger, former Georgia quarterback, 82 SEC championship winner and the 84 Cotton Bowl winner. He will join us here on the program. So we're talking with a bunch of former Georgia quarterbacks and Tony Barnhart today here on the show. So plenty to get to over the course of the next 3 hours on the show. Your phone calls always welcome. 912-342-7184. 912-342-7184. Obviously, Georgia. Hey, you woke up today, you're still national champs. Just want to throw that out there.
Is that how that works?
Yeah. Oh, I've seen a lot of people go, I still can't believe it. Well, believe it. It happened. So we'll take more of your phone calls. You can hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're also streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, so you can join us that way as well. But you talk about capping off the season 14-1. Ben and BJ, 13 wins on the year of 15 or more points on the season. How dominant do you think this football team was? And obviously, when you take a step back, the longer you get away from that game, you get a little more perspective on it. But just how dominant was this football team, obviously, in 2021?
I think much more dominant than people initially realize, right? When you think about Georgia, I don't know that there's the same sense of awe, if that's the right word, that maybe you have had with some of the Alabama champions or LSU, of course, a couple of years ago, scoring seemingly 50 points every week. But when you go look in those numbers, and I think that stat was put out by ESPN College Football on Twitter. When you go look at what Georgia did, let me throw out some scores for you. Georgia played Arkansas when the Razorbacks were number 8 in the country. That was a top 10 matchup. You won 37-0. You shut out the number 8 team in the country. You played Kentucky when Kentucky was undefeated and was ranked number 11 in the country. You beat the Wildcats 30-13. You played Auburn on the road. Haven't always been great there. Played Auburn on the road when they were number 18 in the country. You won 34-10. You played Tennessee, Ben, when Tennessee was seemingly, hey, Tennessee's back. You played them in Neyland Stadium. You won 41-17. Even going back to the beginning of the year, I know that game was tight and close, but you held Clemson, fresh off 6 straight trips to the college football playoff, to 3 points. That's it. And I know a lot of people have criticized Georgia's schedule. I think that's even overblown. I do, because for as much as people go, Clemson's not Clemson, they finished with 10 wins. Arkansas probably wasn't a top 10 team. They finished with 9 wins out of the SEC West. Kentucky finished with 10 wins. And then look at what you did in the playoffs. You beat Michigan 34-11 in a game that was nowhere near that close. If stylistically, Ben, Georgia wanted to score a couple of more touchdowns, they could have. Michigan got quite frankly, a meaningless touchdown and 2-point conversion at the end of the game when Georgia was kind of in prevent, let the clock roll mode. And then I know the Keely Ringo interception kind of changed the dynamic of the score, but at the end of the day, you beat Alabama by 15. Even before that interception, you were beating Alabama by 8. So this is one of the dominant teams that we've seen in the last 15, 20 years of college football. 14 wins, the only team you lost to, you then beat by 2 scores in the title. And I don't think, Ben, we fully appreciate that win over Arkansas, that win over Kentucky, some of the performances we saw during the regular season.
Because BJ, I think the word dominant is something. I mean, Kevin, is the word dominant becoming like the new word beast? They weren't dominant. They were suffocating. This defense suffocated you. You didn't do anything. And it's like this. BJ, you make a good point. Arkansas was a really, really good team. They didn't look the part when they was against Georgia. Kentucky ended up being a good team. Didn't look the part when they played Georgia and against Auburn. And I just think that when you think about a team as dominant as Georgia's defense was and team was, Don't get mad at the offense for going out there playing complementary offense to a defense that took everything from you. It is hard to beat a team twice, but the manner in which you beat them has to say something. And the first time, Georgia's defense, they just didn't show up. Second time, total different story. And isn't it fitting? They won the first game the same way they ended the very last game of the season with an interception for a touchdown. So, yes, dominance is one thing. And they're doing it in an unconventional. In today's world of college football, how many points can your offense score in a prolific way to help you win championship? That's what it's been as of late. Georgia said, dude, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. What you mean? We're going to win with defense, and we're going to play complementary offense. And BJ and Kevin, it was dominant. I mean, at first, listen, I agree with both. I do agree with Kevin with sometimes somebody got to be ranked number 9. Somebody got to be ranked in the top 10. But just because you're ranked in the top 10 and you're going up against the Georgia team, you ain't going to look like you was number 8 or number 9. But the end of the season, BJ did validate it. But I can't judge. I'm not going to judge the fact that Georgia ran through the entire schedule and say they ain't have a good schedule. No, they just beat the brakes off of everybody on their schedule. Nobody said, if that's Alabama, nobody says a word. That's Ohio State, nobody says a word. If that's Clemson, nobody says a word. That's the thing that is even more impressive, regardless of the fact that how the season ended. It was not close in the regular season. They're running away with these games. Now, our job is to create storylines. And boy, we created them. Now, coming out of that game, much to do about nothing. The game was over when they kicked the ball off. So yes, this Georgia team was suffocating because they choked the life out of teams. By the time you get to the third quarter, the games are usually over. And this is what's really impressive. Their backups understood. No. When the starters went out, they hadn't scored. They're not going to score on us. Think about that. The second string, like, dude, y'all not finna score on us. Why? Because we're getting ready to be starters. So we don't want to let the starters think, hey, dude, we're going to have to play longer because y'all guys coming in making it look like a ball game. Nope. Because those starters aren't ending the game. The backups are. So, yes, this was a suffocating defense, a dominant team overall. But I'm just saying, you know how hard it is to keep, I don't know, 12 teams, under 100 points? Are you serious? I just think that's something that we may never, ever see again. And like I said, Georgia won their way. Suffocating defense, complimentary offense. But that defense, man, Kevin, BJ, you're going to have to dig deep because the offenses are built to score now with the rules, with how they run offenses. And they said, nope, we're going to take everything from you. And I'm sorry, I hate to jump all over them Vanderbilt boys, but when we saw the game, I was like, is that serious? Like, yeah, dude, they literally gave them anything. And my Gators, I'm sorry, we didn't make ourselves look good against them dogs either.
So again, BJ, you're talking about the level of domination in college football for this Georgia team, and that's what it takes to win a national championship. You look at what Alabama's done, dominating when Clemson was doing it. They dominated virtually everybody. I think you see. You go back, even in the mid-'90s, a lot of times, BJ and Ben, you'd go back and say, well, Tennessee won the national championship or Michigan or whoever. Then you'd say, oh, they had 2 or 3 pretty close games in there, and they kind of were able to pull it out and get the job done. Last handful of years, the teams that win it all have been crushing everybody. There haven't been a whole lot of close games. Maybe the national championship, maybe a playoff game. But for the most part, in the regular season, they have one maybe relatively close game, and everything else is just dominating the Clemson teams, the Alabamas, now Georgia this year. It's just kind of become that pattern of in the playoffs. If you're going to get there with the way the balance of power is swinging, it's like you're crushing everybody weeks 1 through 12, and that's what gets you there into that position to win the national championship.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think Georgia this season has been right there with Alabama and LSU and Ohio State, the teams of the past that we've seen seemingly win with ease for much of the year. I think Georgia has as well. In terms of their approach and sort of their style, I don't know that we've seen Georgia always go after that 50-point margin. It seems like watching Georgia for portions of this season, the score might be 30-13. I go back to the Kentucky game, for example, but that game was never one that was in doubt. That game was never one. It might have well have been 50-13. And I think that's where maybe we're not fully giving Georgia the credit this team deserves for dominating. I mean, I can look at just about every game on the schedule and say late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, there was no doubt at all Not, well, if a play here happens and then there's a turnover or then there's a score. No, ball game. Like, there is no chance that this team is coming back. Georgia defensively just dominating, Georgia offensively in complete control, doing whatever the offense wanted to do. And I go back to that Orange Bowl. I told you guys, I did not think that game was going to be close. Just did not think that was a good matchup for Michigan and a very favorable matchup for Georgia. First drive of the game. What happened? Georgia gets the ball, Stetson to Brock Bowers, down the field, touchdown. And I think in the first 5 minutes of that game, Stetson did not have an incompletion on the opening drive. You looked around and went, this is a game that if Georgia wanted to, they could probably win 45-3, probably win 50-3. But Georgia very comfortable in that 31-10, 34-6, whatever type range. And Michigan got the late touchdown. But I think for the vast majority of this season, clearly not the SEC championship game in Atlanta, and clearly not most of the national championship game. But for 90, 85% of this season, Georgia was absolutely overwhelming their opponents. I think more so than even the final scoreboard, maybe outside of that Vanderbilt game you referenced, Ben, indicated.
Georgia played dominant when they lost to Alabama in the SEC championship game, when everybody was saying, well, Georgia didn't play their best. As if like think about that. Now Alabama won the game. I'm taking nothing away from, but somebody said if Georgia plays their best, they win that game. It's no coincidence that when Stetson Bennett doesn't throw interceptions to Alabama, they beat them. And I think that the thing that dominant teams do, they take your will, play in and play out. They leave no doubt. There's a clip in the Orange Bowl. When George Pickens, he's on, obviously he's out there lining up, and he's talking to the Michigan sideline. They're talking trash to him, right? So listen to this. They're talking trash to him. He looks over. He comes off the ball and he pancakes the DB, and he looks back at the side like this is what y'all dealing with. These are grown. Listen. I'm a grown man, but when you go up against a grown man that's either trying to dominate you, that's what Georgia did. The same way Kirby is. Kirby wants to take everything from you. He's gonna shake your hand after, but he's gonna beat the hell out you during the game. That's what they did. And that's the worst. That's one of the most defeating things about football is knowing what they're gonna do, knowing how they're gonna do it. Georgia doesn't play cute football. They don't run a cute little play. No. 11 on 11, let's do it. And I go, dude, we can't do anything with nothing. You can't do nothing with them. So, hey, Georgia, for 1 year, and that's how it should be. We said this in 2019, said this in 2020. But when you look at the way Georgia did it on defense, nobody wants to deal with that because they ain't that good. Yeah, well, regular season, if the only team beat them is Alabama, that should tell you how good Georgia was in 2021.
Absolutely good enough to win the national championship. At the end of the day, when we come back, Buck Belue, he's going to join us, and we'll talk about adding another championship trophy to the trophy case. And he's got a little company in that quarterback room of signal callers who've won the national championship there at Georgia. We'll ask him about that and Stetson Bennett's performance as well. This is 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here. 3 and Out on this Wednesday. Georgia, national champions of college football, and the party's still continuing there for Bulldog Nation. Probably going to be going for quite some time. And joining us here on the program, he won the national championship in 1980 there at quarterback of the Dogs. Buck Belue joins us here on 3 and Out. Buck, welcome. How are you?
Man, we are doing well. We are just so thrilled to see this team win the national title. And this fan base can now relax because, look, man, they've been catching all this static from Florida fans, Tennessee fans, Auburn fans, Alabama fans, Clemson fans. They don't have to put up with that anymore, man. I'm so happy for the Bulldog Nation. They won't have to hear any more about how they hadn't won a title since 1980.
I was going to say, Buck, you've been in a very exclusive club. The starting quarterback to win a national championship, and as you said, it's just been you hanging out in there. Now you got yourself a little company with Stetson Bennett. What can you say about that young man in the face of adversity, not only from other people, but a lot of times some of the own fan base who thought there might be a better option out there?
Well, I tell you, in the playoffs, Stetson played at such a high level, and it was so great to see. I thought he played his best game against Michigan in the Orange Bowl. And then he backed it up with another tremendous performance against Alabama on Monday night. Just really happy for him, the way he stepped up. And look, man, hosting a radio show here in Atlanta 5 days, 6 days a week during the college football season, I felt like all along, just my independent poll, there were about 70-80% of the Bulldog Nation that were totally behind Stetson Bennett. So it's a lot like, sports talk radio. You can't please all the people any of the time as a quarterback. So I thought he dealt with that, really awesome. As a matter of fact, he's got a lot to be proud of.
Buck, the resiliency of Stetson Bennett at the end of that game. You had the controversial review, the fumble, Alabama takes the lead. And then from that point, Bennett is 5 of 5 for 83 yards with 2 touchdowns. Talk about that finish to the game and just having that confidence to bounce back and lead Georgia to a victory late.
Well, he's just so mentally tough. The perseverance he's gone through to get where he's at. It just didn't seem to be any problem at all. I thought his best throw was the touchdown pass to Ad Mitchell late in the game. Just dropped a dime on that touchdown pass. And, I don't think that was a fumble either. I'm sorry. Just after looking at the replay, man, I see his arm moving forward when that ball came out of there. So, yeah, I'm just going to say Stetson played that game without turning the ball over, which was huge in the game. Georgia winning the turnover battle.
And Buck, when you think about who he did it against, I mean, obviously Alabama's been a thorn in Georgia's side, and their side as of late. And then, going back to when you guys won it against Notre Dame, what is it about winning against a team like Alabama, who is the premier school in college football right now?
Man, I tell you, in 1980, we were able to take down Notre Dame, which, is a blue blood program. And, we couldn't have picked out a better opponent to be able to do something special like that. And to beat Alabama right now, we're seeing the Crimson Tide under Nick Saban. This is the greatest run of success in college football history. So for Georgia to get that second opportunity and then cash in, win the national title, that's got to be a great feeling. And that's something they're going to hold close to them for decades to come, being able to get over that Alabama hump and take down Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide.
Buck Belue joining us here on 3 and Out. And Buck, you talk about everybody obviously can appreciate what it means for the University of Georgia to finally break through. But what does it mean to be a national champion quarterback, head coach at Georgia, and carry that around with you in this state? Because up until Monday night, it was you and Vince Dooley that kind of had those distinctions, a head coach, a quarterback to bring it home. What does that mean now for Stetson and Kirby Smart to kind of be able to go around this state as I'm the head coach, I'm the quarterback that won the national championship at the University of Georgia?
Well, they're going to be loved for years to come. As I mentioned off the top, this Bulldog Nation is passionate, a college football fan base as there is in the country. And look, they're going to get loved on for years to come. Stetson, my experience tells me he's going to play some free golf. It seems like all these superintendents and golf pros somehow have a connection to Georgia. So I hope we can tee it up a little bit. But they'll always be remembered for breaking the drought, the streak. And let's be honest here, Georgia should have won multiple national titles since that 1980 game. Gosh, just recently, I think about 2012, Aaron Murray and the Dogs had Alabama on the ropes there late in the game, and that one slipped away. And then Jake Fromm in 2017, they're in overtime in the Natty. Got Alabama down, and Tua hits the big pass to win the game for Alabama. I mean, this drought should have never taken place.
Buck, I know you guys had an iconic defense in 1980. This defense doing some things statistically that we haven't seen in a generation. Talk about watching and covering this defense all season and how good they were on Monday night.
I was talking today about this might be the best defensive line in Georgia football history. And we look at 1980 at our team, and I believe totally that you're not going to win a national championship unless you're winning on the line of scrimmage. And our defensive line, Jimmy Payne was an All-American player. He was sort of reminds me of Trayvon Walker. We had Eddie Meat Cleaver Weaver in the middle at nose tackle, and he was taking on double teams and wreaking havoc. And Jordan Davis sort of filled that role on this team. We had some others too. Tim Crow, Joe Creemans, Tim Parks. I mean, we were rushing quality guys on the D-line in and out of the game. And that's what we've seen out of Georgia here too. And really anxious to see the defensive line. I think will be one of the key spots here moving forward next season. Jalen Carter has just had an outstanding run so far as an underclassman. And I think he'll be a guy that'll be leading the way starting next season. Big number 88 in there as a force.
And Buck, I know Kevin asked you about, before Monday night, yourself and Vince Dooley, or with the head coach and, quarterback to say they won the national championship. What is that conversation going to be like, Buck, with you and Stetson Bennett, a guy who not just did it his way, represented way more than just himself, that everybody's going to have that, he can't get it done because of this, because of that. What is going to be that conversation with you and him if y'all do get a chance to have that sit down?
Well, I spoke with him early December, and I was one of those doubters too. I prefer an offense that's going to throw that football around. That's just my personal choice, and so I'm wondering why isn't JT Daniels in there as the starter, who totally unlocked that passing game last season. And so I was the one that was doubting on the decision and what was going on. But let me tell you, during the late in the season, Stetson Bennett, he just won me over with his play. And look, I was hoping he would do well all along, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I had some doubts earlier in the season about, not getting JT Daniels in there.
Buck Belue joining us here on 3 and Out. And Buck, as you said, the team to finally break that streak and get over the hump. What does this mean for Georgia moving forward? Because a lot of times you see something like that, it's like the hardest part to do is finally break through. Georgia is one of the top 1 or 2, 3 teams in the country recruiting every single year. I think 3 teams, all of them in the SEC, but 3 teams got like 30 or 40% of the ESPN top 100 recruits all went to those same 3 schools. I mean, Georgia's set up to continue to be a player on that Monday night showcase game for a while. Is this breakthrough moment maybe the start of, I don't want to say an Alabama type run because we've never seen anything like that, but is this a start of something where it could become a regular thing to see Georgia in the mix there on that Monday night playing for it all?
Yeah, I would expect, look, and I bet a lot of the competition out there is expecting to see Georgia to hang around here, knocking on the door like they have been since 2017. So I don't know, they're not going anywhere. And look, Kirby, being a Georgia man, born and bred, so to speak, he's not going to parlay this into another big job, try to jump to the National Football League. So I just think he's going to be around for a while. And as you mentioned, with the stockpile of talent they've accumulated, they should be back knocking on the door next season. I mean, look at the offensive line. They're going to lose Sawyer, who, to me, his stock has skyrocketed after beating up on Aiden Hutchinson at Michigan and then being able to handle Will Anderson. And the SEC title game did a good job, and this national championship game. They got Broderick Jones, who we saw come in late in the game against Alabama and play some left offensive tackle. Amarius Mims is another one that looks like he's a plug-and-play guy. So, the offensive line looks like it's going to be really, really solid. They got those linebackers lined up deep. The running backs lined up deep on offense. Receivers, they continue to bring in these receivers. Say the offense looks good, whether Stetson comes back or regardless of who transfers. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that quarterback room is going to change. Defensively, a little concerned about the D-line. And certainly the linebacker spot to me is one of the key areas where they've got to address trying to replace Nakobe Dean. I'm guessing he's a first-round pick, and he's probably going to exit early. Quay Walker is a big-time player. 41, Channing Tindall was tremendous this season. So I'm a little concerned about the linebacker spot next season. But, again, a lot of talent. You got the transfer portal. You got these young guys that had a year to get coached up. I think they're just going to be fine coming into next season. Can't wait to see that Oregon game to get the year started as we take on Dan Lanning and the Ducks.
I was going to say, we've seen it with Nick Saban just replacing guys there at coordinator. How does anything change with Dan Lanning out? I mean, it's still Kirby Smart's defense at the end of the day, correct?
Yeah, and look, that defensive staff, I mean, my goodness, man, talk about a great staff. You got Kirby, Dan Lanning, Glenn Schumann, who's done a really great job, Will Muschamp. I mean, my goodness, there's not a better defensive staff in the country. So they should be able to absorb that and be able to move on. But Dan Lanning was special, guys. I mean, he was able to recruit and coach, and so they're going to miss him.
Buck Belue, our guest here on 3 and Out. Buck, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Hey, good being on with you.
Appreciate it. Buck Belue joining us here on 3 and Out Georgia, the national champions of college football. We've got so much more to get to here on this Wednesday. Love to hear from you. 912-342-7184, 912-342-7184. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out on this Wednesday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, Georgia national champions. We've been talking about this for quite some time, the magical run. I know Stetson was asked about it post-game, BJ and Ben, and he said, look, 912 is where it's at. Kirby Smart, obviously not from the 912s. Wait a minute. But you look at Georgia, 14 players from 912. They're winning a championship. So, yeah, obviously Stetson Bennett from Pierce is going to be one. Jack Podlesny, place kicker. Warren McClendon. Those are the guys you see a lot of out in front. Nolan Smith and Tramel Walthour from Liberty County. Those are the guys you see out in front a lot. But a lot of guys on this roster. Austin Blasky, South Effingham. Warren Brinson, who was at the Savannah Christian. Chris Brown from Islands. Malcolm Brown, South Effingham. Matthew Brown, South Effingham. Noah Chumley, who kicked at Savannah Christian. Michael Haggerty from Bradwell Institute. Kamari Lassiter, who I believe was in Savannah, moved away, but it's hometown of Savannah. Warren McClendon, we talked about. Micah Morris out of Camden. They're all bringing home a ring from 912. So a lot of representation there with some bling forthcoming for those guys.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's so fun to watch student athletes who are incredibly productive here, guys who are from here, go on and do big things. And the University of Georgia for the home state team, then to win a national championship. And you're right, Stetson Bennett talking about the 912, repping the 912 for good reason. But what an incredible number of guys, Ben, from Southeast Georgia, 14 on the roster. We were looking at the official roster earlier today, and just from Stetson Bennett and Nolan Smith, like you said, some of the headliners, just congratulations to all of the student athletes. I know making their families, their friends, their communities proud. And I know that's meant a lot to people here to not only have the Dogs win a national championship and have a season for the ages, a season for the record books, but also have, and Warren McClendon, of course, one of the stars as well, but also have guys who are from here, who were big-time high school players on Friday night, be leading parts of this championship team, making plays all over the field. And whether you're a veteran, whether you're an all-conference guy, whether you're just now settling in, you're on the roster to win a national championship. That's a dream season. And just about every time you're watching a play, there's somebody from the 912. And Stetson Bennett has, of course, become a national superstar. Nolan Smith as well. Warren McClendon as well. Jack Podlesny, 3 of 3, right, in the national championship game field goal tries. So great to see, and just another reason to be so excited about all that the Dogs have done this year.
It's about keeping it homegrown. You have to make sure you recruit and dominate in your state. And BJ, and you think about it, it's one thing to be from the 912, but look at how many key contributors. Does it get bigger than Stetson Bennett? You talk about Warren McClendon. I mean, you talk about guys like Nolan Smith. I think that the one thing when you look at a guy like Kirby Smart, he understands that we're going to get our best talent from right here in the state of Georgia, Southeast Georgia in particular. I know that. I mean, they asked Stetson what the best talent was. He said the 912. Looked at Kirby. Kirby was like, well, I said, well, if it ain't from the 912, who just won you a natty? Oh, okay. I'm just saying it's not just the 912. But let me say this about the 912. When I first, get hired on this show, the 912 was thrown in my face all the time. Like, boy, you don't know about the 912. But I will say this. Look, the 912 obviously is near and dear to me. I mean, where I'm from in Swainsboro, I don't even know what area code. We every area code in the state of Georgia. 912-478. You asked them, we got it. But BJ and Kevin, you guys didn't win me over because the 912 goes. Listen. It's they putting out talent everywhere, definitely at the University of Georgia. So when you think about how well this region has been for the University of Georgia, I mean, Richie LeCount, 912. I mean, it goes back years and years and years, and that's what got to make you feel good if you are like a Richie LeCount, right? You came up a little bit short, but it makes you feel good to know that, hey, man, because one, you trying to be a representation of the region of the country or the region of Georgia that you're from, and two, if anybody that played on your team or in that. I remember when I met Nolan Smith, man, he said, hey man, we got to beat them boys from Gainesville. I said, what about winning the natty? He said that too. That confidence shows. So I'm happy for all these guys. I mean, I remember Warren McClendon when he signed to go to Georgia, man. And you see, I'm happy for all these guys. We get a 912 represents in a big way. And I think that's got to make you feel good if you're from the 912 to know that you either grew up, playing with these guys, covering these guys, you're writing stories about these guys and just following their career, man. It's great to see these young men saying, hey, man, they finally got that national championship, and the 912 had a huge part of that.
And Kevin, I know you covered a lot of these guys in high school, called some of their games. When you think about making plays on Friday nights, that's what's neat about the memories is you see, there's a big block from Warren McClendon, or you see Podlesny make a kick, or Stetson with a throw, and Nolan Smith make a tackle. And you go, oh, I remember when this happened, or I remember this moment. And I think it's so cool to kind of have that local feel on a national level. I mean, certainly Georgia's one of the big programs in college football, but now on a national championship level that everybody's talking about. And, a number of these guys were huge impact playmakers on Monday in that game specifically, in addition to what they've done all throughout the season. Again, Stetson Bennett and Warren McClendon and Nolan Smith and Podlesny with the 3 of 3 field goals. So these have been big time names, contributors, big time leaders on the field, off the field for the Dogs, a number of these guys, and just awesome to see. We're going to see some bling around town. Going to see some national championship rings in the years to come around town, around coastal Georgia, around southeast Georgia, and just really excited for all these student athletes and their families.
And it wasn't all that long ago where there was why doesn't Georgia recruit the 912 in South Georgia? As a matter of fact, BJ, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, where we had a function where Mark Richt was speaking, and somebody asked Mark Richt why Georgia didn't recruit more South Georgia football players. That was a question asked to. So it's like, it hasn't been that long ago that there were a lot of people wondering, hey, there's talent here, take advantage. And obviously Georgia just did in a big way in numerous spots this last season.
And in the biggest of ways. I mean, and I think you have guys who are going to be a big part of Georgia moving forward. Guys who still have eligibility left on the roster. I think all these guys do. I believe off the top of my head, every single one on the roster that's from the 912 still has eligibility left. And a lot of guys that are young, Ben, that are freshmen, that are redshirt freshmen, that are sophomores. So not only has the 912 been front and center as Georgia's won a national championship, a lot of these guys are going to continue to be only more important pieces, leaders, playmakers for the Dogs in the years to come.
You would hope that a guy like Stetson Bennett, BJ, and Kevin makes it so that we get past how big or not big a person is. I mean, when you think about Stetson Bennett and his impact on college football and that of the University of Georgia, if he can do it at the high school level, I mean, people say he's not going to be able to see over the line. Don't you think his offensive linemen are bigger than him in high school? I mean, what he can. That's why he drops back before he makes throws. Some of these guys are just doing it for so much more than themselves. And I mean, Kevin, if Mark Richt got to answer that question, I bet you Kirby Smart, they can't keep. Now, I don't know what they're saying up there in, northwest Georgia, but southeast Georgia, oh my God, because BJ, you mentioned Warren McClendon. I mean, Michael Morris, I remember when I met him and I was like, oh my God. I asked him, I said, man, young man, what do you eat? He said, everything. I was like, okay, well, do what you want to do. I'm just happy for these guys because I know what it means to represent a certain region and you doing it for more than you. Whatever Stetson Bennett didn't do before, I want to hear those same people saying that the narrative before has changed really quickly, right? Kevin and BJ, if he shouldn't do this, but if I'm Stetson Bennett, I'm like, how tall is Bryce? Because I'm taller than him. How big is Bryce Young? I'm bigger than him, and I beat him head to head when the game really mattered. Shout out to Stetson Bennett, shout out to Nolan Smith, shout out to Warren McClendon, shout out to everybody in the 912. You guys, whatever schools you guys represented, you guys gonna definitely make it so that a lot of other young men get opportunities to potentially play at the University of Georgia.
Yeah, and proud of these guys, happy for these guys. But I wanted to ask you this, Kevin. I mean, certainly this would bring more of a spotlight, right? More of a recruiting spotlight to the area.
Sure. And there's been great players, obviously, all throughout the 912. And when you go on and have success, we've said this for a number of years, BJ, when you go on and have success at the next level, not just at Georgia, but we talk about guys all over the country who have gone from 912 to play college football. They'll come back. There's more players to be had. They'll come back and keep recruiting that area hard. We got more to come. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here on this Wednesday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben will be giving away a copy of Ben's book, Uncommon and Unfinished, coming up later in the show. So we'll be doing that on Wednesdays. We'll do it leading up to the Super Bowl, and you'll have another opportunity to win today. So we're going to do it a little bit later in the show. So your chance to win coming up a little bit farther down the line today in 3 and Out. Also coming up on Friday, I know we just got done. We've been talking about Georgia. The in-market Savannah Hockey Classic coming back this week. Georgia going to be on hand there with Georgia Tech, Florida, and Florida State. And the final time at the Savannah Civic Center after this year, they'll move it over to the new in-market arena there. And last time to see it there at the Civic Center coming up on Friday and Saturday. We will be there 3 to 6 on Friday. Stop by and say hello. And no, we will not be showcasing our pathetic hockey skills.
I was about to ask that though. I mean, no, I didn't get a chance to see that. I wasn't working on the network then, or at least Kevin was like, "Yes, I don't want him yet. Not now, BJ. Ask me that in 2 years. No, I want to see Kevin and BJ on the ice. I'm not doing it. Thank God they don't make. I don't think they make them big enough for my feet, which is good. But Kevin, BJ, this is gonna be the last time, right? We got to go out with a bang. Kevin, BJ on the ice.
Well, no, we can go at the in-market arena next year, but I mean, right now it's the last time at the Civic Center. I think BJ illegally got on the ice once before. Well, he did.
What about there?
I was standing around, and security said, "Sir, what are you doing?"
That was Ryan Sewell's fault.
Yeah, and then he came over there, and it's always nice to blame it on somebody
I
else.
mean,
Nobody twisted your arm and said you went and commandeered a pair of skates and got out there.
That's my guy. Listen, he said it's cool. Let's go out there. And Ryan's an athlete. Played at Georgia. He's like staring down the Georgia Tech guys.
And what are you?
Not an athlete.
Not an athlete.
Yeah, definitely not an athlete. I tried, but when you put the skates on and you go out there, it looks so easy. And the in-market hockey classic is awesome. Look forward to it every year. Really excited. And you mentioned moving to the new arena, but this is something that I look forward to because you have the same passion that you have on the football field from the fans.
I imagine it might be a little more rowdy this go.
Yes, and
the trash talking gonna be on display.
Got the new shirts and sweaters, the championship ones, but you think because of how fluid and athletic and smooth the guys are that it's easy to get out there on the skates. And I'm not even talking about playing hockey like with the puck, and I'm talking about standing up. And it is, for me, it was really difficult. Like I'm not talking about moving. I'm saying standing up on the ice. The idea of skating or doing so fluidly and then also having something in my hands and then also watching a puck and then also possibly getting knocked out like Ben did in the Kentucky game. Like that is just
whoa. I got game plans. Number one. And number two, hold on. Wait a sense though, right? And I know he's just doing his job. But when security says, "Hey, what you doing?" Well, what does it look? What does it look like I'm doing? I'm on the ice with the skates on. What are you doing, huh? Kevin Thomas told me I could come out. It's like, hey.
it's fine.
No, I had nothing to do with that. Nothing whatsoever. I'm not there to tell who can and cannot go down on the ice, but we will be there at the Savannah Civic Center on Friday, getting ready for the in-market hockey classic. Georgia Tech, Florida State in town for 2 nights of hockey action. It's always a lot of fun. If you've never been, I encourage you to go and come see us there on Friday from 3 to 6. BJ and I will be happy to see you. Ben will be happy for you to come up to him and say 2008. And I've heard that a lot, Ben.
Listen. I will say this though. I will say this. I mean, because I know it's coming. If you are a Georgia fan and you want to do this, we don't do it now. I'm telling you. Now I'm gonna show you some love, but you know how it is, BJ. It's not about who won it recently. You start talking about stuff they haven't done. I'm gonna be so far away from football. I'm gonna be talking about lacrosse and everything. Come over here, but congratulations to the Georgia fans, man. I'm supposed to get all the trash, and I will say to Georgia fans, y'all a little bit nicer than I thought y'all would be. If Florida just won, y'all gonna hate me. Y'all are some of the nicest winners. No one likes a gracious winner. Talk trash. This is your time to grow.
Just give it time, right?
So you heard it right here, everybody. Friday, 3 to 6, Savannah Civic Center. Come see us. Ben says I welcome it all.
I expect it. I expect it. But look, y'all a little bit too nice for me, man. I'm talking cash money. I'm gonna talk cash money regardless. But at least y'all got the one up right now.
We got more to come here. 3 and Out. We'll take 3. Christian, you've done enough. We'll come back. Hour 2, 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you back. 3 and Out. Hour 2. We got plenty to get to. We will talk with Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, about Georgia's epic night there on Monday. He will join us coming up in just a little bit. We'll also have our tight end, grade to tight end. We'll have Ben break down Brock Bowers and what's made him so special there for the University of Georgia. So that coming up here in this hour as well. But first, let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, fellas, our own Christian Gokel on Twitter put up the most iconic UGA pass. 1 of 3 plays. You got to vote for one. The run, Lindsey run, Bellew to Scott, the hobnail boot play, or Stetson Bennett to A.D. Mitchell on Monday night in the national championship game. It's called 2nd and 18. Is that like, what was the Auburn one with David Green?
That was 4th and
26 or something like that?
4th and a lot.
So which is it?
It's interesting because the word we were talking about this morning, Christian. I thought you made some good points about the run, Lindsey run play. To me, the biggest play when you think about the history of Georgia football is Stetson to A.D. Mitchell, because everybody on the internet, I think everybody around the country probably thought Alabama had just won that game, and we feel that way because of what you had seen in recent editions of the rivalry. You have the controversial review, and I know Buck Bellew, and I agree with him earlier in the show saying not a fumble, but the refs rule it a fumble. Alabama takes the lead, and all of a sudden everybody's looking around going, here we go again. And then after a play where you just lost yardage, seems like momentum is really in Alabama's favor. Stetson Bennett has a dream throw trailing to Alabama in the 4th quarter of the national championship game. Wonderful catch by Mitchell as well in the end zone, and that's as big as it gets in the national championship game. That is, and maybe with more time, there'll be more kind of lore or context around the play. But I think when you think about run, Lindsey run, it was, you had so much going on. You know, the play kind of has a name based off of a famous call. That was a play that will always be a defining play in Georgia history. But that was the play that sparked a national championship. That was the point of pride for 40 years. I mean, when you think about 1980, if you go up to 100 Georgia fans and go, phrase association, 1980. Well, I think you're going to get run, Lindsey run before anything else. Probably before even Herschel Walker, before talking about, My God, a Freshman will be up there. But I think run, Lindsey run is where you're going to go. And I don't think you're going to say, we beat Notre Dame. It's going to be run, Lindsey run, Bellew to Scott. It's going to be Bellew to Scott. So because of the context and the historical frame of reference, we've had this for 40 plus years to talk about and think about. And the call from Larry Munson, I think iconic. I will go with Bellew to Scott. But I think the biggest play in Georgia history is Stetson Bennett to A.D. Mitchell.
Bellew to Scott is going to always be there, but I mean, that was more, Lindsey Scott making things happen with his feet and it just outrunning the defense. There's nothing that you can't control speed. Speed kills. But because of the situation, it is Bennett to Mitchell. I mean, the fact of the matter is the degree of difficulty for that throw and catch was about as hard as you're going to get. And the thing is, that's what Stetson Bennett was waiting on. But regardless, because the situation was so high and it means everything, it's one thing to have a play that spun, obviously, the rest of the season. It's another thing that this is the season. This is it. There is no coming back after this. I'm gonna go with Stetson Bennett, to Mitchell. And listen, if you ask her Lindsey Scott and Bellew, they'll be listen, man, we gladly defer to that guy, man, because I just think that Stetson Bennett put up a throw that most people will not make.
It's Bellew to Scott, and it's not even close, quite frankly. No, it's not.
Talk about it.
It's not. Did when Kirby Smart was interviewed post game, did he say, "Man, Stetson to A.D. Mitchell"? He said, "Nope, there's gonna be property destroyed." Where'd that come from? Bellew to Scott. Bellew to Scott. Also, the singular pass that helped keep Georgia's championship hopes alive. That things were looking shady. It comes there. Look, if I saw there's gonna be property destroyed tonight, once I saw it 1,000 times on Monday night. That didn't come from Stetson throwing it to A.D. Mitchell. Came from one play. That's the most iconic play in Georgia history, and will always be that. Unless something just absolutely nuts happens and has the entire Georgia fan base. Unless the last play Monday night was Stetson Bennett launching it from his own 40 and Georgia won on that, then that would become it. But no, it's Bellew to Scott. Not even close in my estimation. All right, quickly, take 3 before we get to Tony Barnhart, this is take two. Better defensive front. Georgia in 2021, which is loaded with talent, or that 2018 Clemson team, which I think the two deep in that championship game all got drafted. Everybody was talking about that two deep on the front defensive line there for Clemson, all moved on to the NFL. Better defensive line, Georgia this year or that 2018 Clemson?
And those are the standards right there. I mean, right up there with 2011 Alabama, probably. Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, there's going to be a wrong answer, whatever you say here. Ben, I've talked to you a number of times about when we went to the ACC championship game that year, and I'm down on the field, and I'm just going, Dexter Lawrence, and it's the same thing with Jordan Davis. You see Jordan Davis and, some of these guys. I think the fact that when you go across the board, and we do have, and Kevin, you mentioned this in the show meeting, we do have maybe a little bit of or Clemson does have a little bit of an edge, and that we've been able to see these guys be drafted, go to the NFL, so it kind of adds more to the resume. I think I might lean Clemson because you're talking about that starting group of Cleveland Farrell, Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, Austin Bryant. You had Ben Boulware, Dexter Lawrence, a multi-time first-team All-American. I might feel differently in a couple of years when I have some more context to add to the resume, but right now I will say Clemson.
Oh, man. I mean, it's going to be very, very hard to go up against that 2018 defense, BJ, but I ain't never seen nothing like what we saw this year with Georgia, right? You ain't never seen nothing like it. I mean, you didn't give up 100 points the whole season. I think you gave up 3 rushing touchdowns. I think that 2018 defense for Clemson gave it like 13.1 points a game. Georgia was way lower than that. I mean, that 2018 iconic, but I still think it's a Georgia D. We ain't seen nothing like it. In modern football, you are keeping teams scoreless multiple times a year. It's got to be 2021 Georgia.
Yeah, man, that's tough.
It's brutal.
It is tough. They're both very, very good and very, very deep and talented. I'm going to say I will go with this year's Georgia team, but it's very, very close. Take 3. Where does Nakobe Dean rank among Georgia's all-time great linebackers? I know, BJ, I always accuse you of recency bias in a lot of your takes, but where do you think he ranks even as we move away from Monday night?
Well, he's one of 2 Butkus Award winners in the history of the program. Roquan Smith and Nakobe Dean, the only Georgia linebackers to ever win the Butkus Award. It was awesome, last week getting to talk to Rennie Curran and as an All-American, hear him talk about what makes Nakobe Dean special. Look, same thing as last question. You could go either way, maybe depending upon the day, the answer. I think I would, if I had to pick one, I think I would lean Nakobe Dean over Roquan Smith, just in terms of those 2 Butkus Award winners who had the better season. I think maybe just a tad more ability to rush the passer, perhaps. But I think Dean, and he's not going to have the great stats because of the way Georgia's defense worked this year. But I think he's right up there. I mean, when you think about guys that come to mind, I mean, you're thinking about, and Georgia's running back you, but not far from being linebacker you. When you think about, and I'm not Ben. For me, I look at inside linebackers a little bit different than kind of edge rushers like Jarvis Jones, asked to do some different things. But even go back to Boss Bailey and Odell Thurman and Kendrell Bell. I mean, just all these iconic Georgia linebackers. I think Dean is as good as it gets.
Oh man, I definitely think he's top 10. Top what 6 or 7? I would say top 6 or 7. It's a recency bias thing. I do not think he's better than Roquan Smith. I do not think he's better than Rennie Curran. I do not think he's better than Kendrell Bell. I do not think he's better than Odell Thurman. These guys were lights out. Boss Bailey, super duper athletic. Boss Bailey had 6 sacks and 114 tackles. Led the team with tackles and sacks. That's what Nakobe Dean is dealing with. But top 6 or 7, yes. But top 5, yeah. Georgia has some dogs, no pun intended. They had some boys that went out there and got it done.
The pun of the show for Ben Troop there. I still like, I guess just personal preference. I guess I would still go Roquan Smith, but Odell, you think? I mean, he's up there. Odell was a good player, really, really good player there for University.
Odell was nice. Got on my nerves.
I'm going to say he's probably top 4. I'll say maybe top 3. I'll put him up there, top 3 all time at Georgia. We'll come back. Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, will join us when we return right here on 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Georgia Bulldogs ended 41 years of frustration on Monday night. The kings of college football. So who better to talk about college football with than our next guest? He's Mr. College Football. Tony Barnhart joins us here, SEC Network and more. Tony, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing all right, guys. I just got home last night. I was on a plane with a lot of very tired but very happy Bulldogs. It was a special day.
And Tony, I know as a guy who I believe went to Georgia, have been covering sports in the state of Georgia, both on the local and national level. Is there any way to overstate, I guess, what that means to a large majority of people in the state of Georgia, what happened on Monday night?
No, you can't overstate it. I mean, I've lived all but about 8 years of my life in the state of Georgia. I grew up here. I went to school here. And I was making some phone calls at the end of the game. I called my wife and she's crying. She's talking to my daughter who's got 2 degrees from Georgia and she's crying. It's just 41 times. And one of my fraternity brothers I watched the game with at the stadium, he was crying. He said, 41 years is a long time to wait. So no, you can't overstate what this means to the Georgia people.
Tony, you're a great storyteller. Have we seen much like Stetson Bennett, and what type of story is this going to be throughout the ages of college football?
If you gave the script of Stetson Bennett's story to a Hollywood producer, he'd laugh you out of the room. Said, you know, that's that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can fantasize about it. It doesn't happen in real life. You don't walk on at a place like Georgia and then eventually lead the team to the national championship. I mean, that's Rudy kind of stuff, okay? But it's an incredible story. And what's so amazing is that as the story is winding down, it looks like it's going to have an unhappy ending with that turnover. He dropped the ball early today, but to his credit, he said after the game, I was not going to be the reason we lost this game. And he made just some major league throws down the stretch. And it is a story. People love stories of perseverance and redemption. And that's what Stetson Bennett is. He overcame a lot and he persevered.
And Tony, you talk about talking with your wife that was crying. You talking, with your daughter, but you were in the stands, right? You were in the stands with your frat brothers, I believe. What was that like? Just saying, listen, obviously you want this thing to end the way it ended, but to know you were sharing it with guys that you came up in college with had to mean that much more to you.
Well, this is only the second time in 35 years I've watched the game from the stands, but this group of guys goes with me to the Georgia-Florida game every year down in Jacksonville. I think I've missed some games down there, but a couple of the guys have been for 40 consecutive years. We're old guys. And I promised them that if Georgia made it to the national championship game, that we would go and I would sit with them in the stands. And, I'm not used to being in that atmosphere and I have to watch games, and so I'm sort of watching the game, and they got nervous, and they got excited, and their nervousness and their excitement wore off on me. And so at the end of the year, at the end of the night, it was just an incredible feeling, and I wrote a column on it and put it on Facebook, and so it was really cool.
Tony Barnhart joining us here on 3 and Out. And Tony, we talked about Stetson's story. What about Kirby Smart? It's often in sports you say you don't want to be the guy who follows the guy. And Mark Richt, 10 wins a year there at Georgia. Obviously, the knock was couldn't get to that big one, but won SEC championships, had teams in positions to play. Maybe the math got him in the BCS once or twice, potentially out there, but a beloved figure at the University of Georgia. He steps in, obviously not taking over a program that's just gone 6-6 or is down in the doldrums, but a program that wanted to go from 10 and 11 wins to the whole enchilada, and a place he played at. So you're the alumni, the beloved former player coming in to try to crest the hill, take that next step, and to do it relatively quickly for a first-time head coach has to be a remarkable story in and of itself.
Well, think about this. Kirby Smart has been the head. First of all, he's only 46 years old. He's been the head coach at Georgia for 6 years. In 6 years, he's won 66 games. He's been to the SEC championship game 4 times. He's been to the national championship twice and won one of them. That's not bad for 6 years. And listen, Kirby Smart, I have the greatest amount of respect and affection for Coach Mark Richt. He did a tremendous job at Georgia. Kirby Smart comes in, and Kirby Smart wants to know, okay, Georgia, I understand what you want. Are you ready to go big? And they assured him that they were, and they made the commitments in terms of facilities and what he needed. And it has been a remarkable 6-year run. And the great thing about all of this is that Kirby Smart will never again have to say, Coach, you've done all this great stuff, but you haven't won a national championship. That conversation ends in just his 6th year at the University of Georgia.
So, Tony, you're talking about a coach that obviously played for the program he's leading. Doesn't look like he would take another job. Certainly still in his late 40s. How sustainable is this? Could Georgia emerge alongside, and maybe even if you kind of glance down the line, potentially overtake Alabama big picture as the top program in college football?
Well, it's totally sustainable because all the elements are there. First of all, there's not a recruiting base in America that's better than the state of Georgia. Everybody recruits here. The financial commitment to the program is strong and will be even stronger after this. And the question is, you've got to be willing. I heard Rick Neuheisel say this many years ago, and he's right. When you're in a position like Georgia, or Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, you've got to be willing to finance your expectations, and Georgia's going to do that. And as long as Georgia is recruiting at this level, which is the Alabama level or the Georgia level, they will be fine. And this program is totally sustainable because all the elements are in place.
And Tony, when you think about like what Georgia is doing, you got the Georgia way of doing things, but then we talk about Kirby Smart and what he's done in 6 years. You look at who he's hired. You look at what Mel Tucker did at Michigan State. You look at the fact that Dan Lanning stayed to coach the team before he goes out to Oregon. You see what Sam Pittman is doing in Arkansas. It seems to be not only is what he's doing working, guys are able to take what they've learned from him and go to other places and have instant success as well.
Well, when you're at a place like Georgia and you spent, like Kirby Smart, you spent 11 years with Nick Saban, you know what the program is supposed to look like, and you know what the kind of coaches are that you need. And listen, there are a lot of really, really good coaches out there who would love to get a shot at coaching at a place like Georgia, where you've got everything you need to be successful. So that, that's not going to be an issue. Georgia will always be able to get and get successful assistant coaches because Kirby Smart has the resources.
Tony Barnhart joining us here on 3 and Out. And Tony, obviously the SEC wins yet another one. I know folks in the other P5 conferences probably get tired of seeing it, but Alabama's not going anywhere. Georgia's not. Texas A&M just had the #1 recruiting class. I think those 3 schools just had something like 40% of the ESPN top 100 went to those 3 schools. And you're bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, this run of dominance doesn't seem like it's going to slow down anytime soon for the SEC.
No, and the other conferences had better get used to it. And it's yet another reason why we need to go ahead and expand the playoff, okay? There needs to be more teams and more programs involved. And hopefully sometime in this year, the other conference commissioners will come to their senses and realize will the SEC thrive under a 12-team playoff? Yep, they pretty much will. But a lot of other teams are going to have access as well. The 14 things have been working out pretty good for the SEC. There's really no pressure, but if you want to do what's best for college football and make it a more inclusive sport, you'll go to a 12-team playoff.
Finally, to that end, I mean, what's preventing us from getting to that point? I know you had right there before the national championship game kind of a lack of a consensus as to what's on the horizon, but what's standing in the way of playoff expansion? And do you ultimately think inevitably we will widen this thing?
Well, what's standing in the way of expansion is the commissioner of the Big Ten, the commissioner of the Pac-12, the commissioner of the ACC. They formed what is somehow called the alliance, where they wanted to do things slowly and basically they felt like the SEC was going to take over the world, it's going to happen. Well, first of all, it's going to happen. The only question, the only variable is time. Those of us who follow the game, who love the game, would like to see it done as soon as possible. But there are financial implications in all this. And so it's going to get done, but we may have to get to the end of this current contract, which is the 2025 season, before we can get a new deal. But yeah, we could do it tomorrow if the commissioners of those 3 conferences would just come to their senses.
Tony, quickly, I know we got about a minute left. The health of the game. I just want to follow up on what you said there. Obviously, SEC fans are like, fine, we'll win all of them. That's what we're the best. But for the greater good of the game, I know that's hard to see in the scope of college football sometimes with fans, but where is college football in terms of interest in the greater good? I know there's a lot of fans that say, hey, we're trying to win a conference championship, but when it comes past that, if the SEC's got some good teams, we may not have a shot. Where do you think the health of the game is right now, even with one conference having all the dominance in the world there on the big stage?
Well, I think the game is going to be fine as long as we're more inclusive. That, to me, that is the challenge. You need, it gives the teams in the SEC, and particularly Alabama and Georgia, a tremendous recruiting advantage. That you mentioned that 40% of the players will go into these two schools. Why? Because they know they've got a reasonable shot at going to the playoffs, and they can use that in recruiting. If you had 12 teams go into the playoffs, there would be more schools that could go into living rooms and say, okay, we have as good a chance as any of these schools in the Power Five of going to the playoffs. And once more teams get into the playoffs, it will spread the recruits from many to more people instead of being concentrated in 4 or 5 schools. That's got to be more healthy for the game.
Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, our guest here on 3 and Out. Tony, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Okay, guys.
Tony Barnhart, always enjoy talking football with him, Mr. College Football. You can see him on SEC Network and a long time covering the sport of college football. And certainly he knows well the history that was made there on Monday night as Georgia, and as we talked about there at the end, the SEC continuing their reign of dominance over college football.
And it was cool to hear his perspective on, Stetson Bennett saying, hey, you go into a movie director's office and say, check out this script. Yeah.
It's too cheap. I mean, it really is too cheesy, too sappy if you just put it on paper of how it played out, but it happened in real life.
Yeah, the best stories are real life. And you saw that with Stetson Bennett and, countless guys on this Georgia roster who have helped the Bulldogs achieve history, impact lives with what this game has meant to people in terms of winning a championship and changing the talking points. And, like Tony said, never again will Kirby Smart or, any of these players ever say, well, in 1980, well, you guys have been great. You won the Rose Bowl, but you won the SEC championship, but no, you have the national title. And Ben, it was just to kind of recap all that. It was incredible, but there's Tony Barnhart, who's been one of the, leading college football journalists, saying this is something that, my friends, my family, emotions all over the place. That was really powerful.
It really, really was. And Tony Barnhart and everybody, all these former UGA, alum, it was a bunch of them there. I mean, it really, really, it was star-studded all over the place because that's how much the University of Georgia means to their alumni, to their fan base. And to say if we ever go to the national championship, I'm going to be in the stands. And his friends, and he said, go to the Florida-Georgia game or Georgia-Florida game to you Georgia fans every single year. It just, look, it meant everything to them Georgia fans. And them Georgia alumni. Why wouldn't? L. Duncan, on television on the Paul Finebaum show said, Paul, I'm here to talk trash. I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to be professional. I'm talking trash. I'm seeing DJ Shockley and those guys out there. Alvin Kamara was out there with Mark Ingram, and Alvin Kamara transferred to freaking Tennessee because he wanted to be at the game. That's how big this game was. So I am happy for Tony Barnhart and those guys. And like he said, it is a storybook. It is a storybook type ending for Stetson Bennett. But somebody's going to have to play him, BJ. Old man football. You think you got a script in you to go out there and throw a couple of touchdown passes? Don't get scared now. They call your phone. You got to answer the call.
Yeah, more touchdown passes for me. That ain't happening.
I'm just saying, how many touchdown passes do you have right now currently in the old man football? What's your stat?
I think my touchdown to interception ratio is like 95-4.
What is your touchdown to interception ratio when targeting a one Kevin Thomas?
Yeah.
100%.
Kevin's running like 70-yard seam route saying, why can't you get it down the field to me?
No. BJ shows up and says, man, I'm dropping dimes out there. I literally run 20 yards downfield. He goes, I can't throw it that far. Who do you think I am? I'm like, well, you're out here saying you're dropping dimes.
No. Okay, let's
was open.
If we're bringing clarity, you got there like an hour and a half after we had been playing. We're running one route talking about feed me the rock.
No. I get the whole, you feel like playing today? I'm tired as hell. But I'm going to go out there and run. Kevin wants to rock.
I'm just embracing my inner wide receiver. I'm open on every play. Give it to me. I'm not going to drop it. That's fine.
Hey, you and Cody always open.
Never been covered a day in my life. Right, Ben? That's how it
I
works.
mean, yeah. Listen, Kevin said, if you want me to show up and you're not going to utilize my talents, I'm going to Antonio Brown you. I'm gone. No, I'm leaving right now. I'm pumping up the crowd and I'm gone.
Sample size of one. I'm going to ask the guy here. Ben, in all of your years at Florida, in all of your years in the National Football League, and all of your time at Butler High School, did you ever walk back in the huddle and say, yeah, man, I was covered on that play? Not one time, I'm betting.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not gonna say. Even if that happened, I'm not gonna say that. But you're right. Yeah, you got to have that competitive juice. No. For everybody who listen, there's a lot of athletic arrogance that goes on with all grown men. BJ only cares about what he did on the positive side of things. BJ gonna let you know what he did and what you could have done better.
There were the interceptions. There aren't no. There aren't any interceptions.
PJ threw me a pass, and you and your brother hit me in my back before the ball got there, and looked at me like, "And I'm just saying, it's cool though."
Yeah, going both ways, offense and defense.
We got more to come here at 3 now. Speaking of running routes, Brock Bowers certainly could do that and bring in some great catches. We'll have Ben dissect Georgia's freshman tight end when we come back. It's 3 now, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. route running here on the show. Everybody's open all the time. BJ's hitting nothing but numbers in the chest, on the money.
I don't
every
run
time.
routes. I don't play defense. I just stand back there. Boom. Open. I'll find you and get you the ball. At least that used to be the case on one afternoon, long time
It
ago.
happened once in a very long time ago. We've got look, it happened a lot for Georgia. They were able to find guys open and get things done. Brock Bowers had a key touchdown catch, 3:33 to go in the national championship game. Ben, we've talked a little bit about him, 56 receptions, 882 yards, 13 touchdowns. I don't know that Georgia came close to having a 1,000-yard receiver at the receiving spot. They were very close there with the tight end spot, and Brock Bowers, a guy that was a true freshman. What do you see from him? Obviously, if he continues this pace, he's only going to get 2 more seasons in Athens, Ben. But what do you see from that guy as it relates to the tight end position?
Wise beyond his years, a guy that just understands like spacing on the field, and he's a physical freak. I don't know too many guys that has that much speed at his size. You can't coach speed, you can't coach athleticism, and he has it. But the thing that stands out with the most of Brock Bowers is he does it when it matters. Like, he ain't just out there giving you stats for nothing. You keep on saying, who is this guy? I mean, obviously I broke down tape of him running away from a safety who had an angle on him. He shows that all you need is a guy. Like, when it comes to football, you don't need multiple guys to get it done. You need a guy on the outside that can make plays when needed. You need a guy at the tight end position who can make plays when needed, and you need a solid run game. If you don't believe me, go look at Kansas City. Who they run their passing game through? Travis Kelce. Who do the Raiders run their passing game through? That would be Darren Waller. Who do San Francisco run their passing game through? That would be George Kittle. And he looked like Kyle Pitts as a senior or a junior, as a freshman. He's giving you Kyle Pitts type numbers, type production. 13 touchdowns means he's affecting the scoreboard. That's how you affect the game. First downs, touchdowns, impact. He has it all. And the fact that he's doing it as a freshman shows that the game isn't too big for him. He wants to be in the spotlight. He knows that he's going to be the one everybody's trying to stop. Good luck with that. The game hasn't even slowed down for him yet. Go back to the SEC championship game. Led all receivers in catches, yards, and a touchdown. You go back to the Orange Bowl. They open up touchdown. To Brock Bowers, and obviously made his impact felt. And the greatest thing is, I don't think he cares that, I don't know him, but I don't think he cares that much about BJ filling up the box score. He cares about being impactful. That's what he is. Like, because you say how good when Kyle Pitts played last year, he looks like how he played. This dude, like, he can run, he can. And when he gets out there on the field, he's the most dominant player. Brock Bowers at certain parts of this season was the best player for Georgia on offense. And that's taking nothing away from Stetson or Zebo or George Pickens or Burton or Kearis Jackson or Cook. The best player to me for Georgia this year, was Stetson Bennett. The most impactful player was probably Brock Bowers, because you was going into this season, BJ, and obviously I didn't mess with Brooks Austin about it. You're supposed to have 2,000-yard receivers on the outside. One guy gets hurt, and people forget this. Brock Bowers wasn't even supposed to play. That was supposed to be Eric Gilbert. He was supposed to be the starter. Darnell Washington was supposed to be the backup. This guy ended up starting, leading the team in catches, yards, touchdowns. Brock Bowers, he is a beast. He is a freak, whatever you want to call him. But when you put him out there on the field, BJ, good luck with trying to stop him, because you couldn't even do it. Alabama couldn't do it twice. Michigan, hey, man, y'all had to deal with him. And SEC defenses, hey, man, he kept those defensive coordinators up night. But, yeah, I think this kid, I think the sky's going to be – he got a chance to rewrite all the record books, not just at Georgia, but maybe at the tight end position in the SEC.
You were one of the first tight ends, Ben. We've talked about this, to average 15, 16 yards per catch, be one of those downfield playmakers. I think Bowers up around 17. How amazing is that? How impressive is that? That's a big-time average for a receiver on the perimeter to be a tight end and to bring that big playability to the seam in the middle of the field. What does that do for an offense?
It makes it so that you don't need – I mean, I know it's crazy, but it makes the guys on the outside obsolete. It makes them optional instead of a priority. You need a guy that can move the chains. You need a guy that's going to make those safeties back up. You need a guy that's going to make his money in between the numbers, and he provides all that. And because you place so much focus on one guy, other guys get open. Other guys getting one-on-ones. George Pickens had 2 big catches, right? One in the SEC championship game because of Alabama, one in the national championship. Why? Because they're so focused on Brock. BJ. I mean, when you think about what a tight end does, he does his damage what the bulk of most balls are thrown. Most balls aren't thrown on the outside. Those are very, very low percentage completion balls. You're going to complete 80 to 90% of the balls in between the numbers, in between the hash. Well, that's where he lives. Problem is, when he gets his hands on the ball, he don't have elite receiver speed, but he has elite tight end speed. That kid he's a 4.45 easy. So I think that when you look at Brock Bowers, he makes it so that Monkey could go to bed at night going, all right, woo, I got me somebody that I can run the passing game through, because we think it's got to be by committee, right? No, it could be a committee of one. His name is Brock, last name Bowers. And if you think he ain't that good, ask anybody that has to go up against him, has went up against him, or seen him on tape. He checks it off. The only reason why he's not going pro is because of these NCAA regulations that say, quote, I got to be 3 years in school, which is nonsensical. If the kid can play in the SEC, big time football, he can play at the next level. He's going to make an NFL team very, very happy a couple of years from now. But unfortunately, everybody in the SEC East, including my Gators, they got to deal with this kid for the next 2 years.
Yeah, unbelievable talent there as well. And kind of, Ben, we've seen it as the years have gone on, kind of the redefined role of the tight end. Georgia had, 3 that played very regular out there. You had, and again, I guess it's more of like an NFL concept. You have your guy who's in there basically to block, who will utilize in the sneak attack situation where, hey, you normally block, but they forgot about you. There you go. You got a guy that's simply a horrendous matchup for other teams. And that was what Brock Bowers was. It was, hey, you can block, but mostly we know there's not a traditional guy on the other side that if we line up in this formation is going to be able to stay with you for 4 quarters, play in, play out, and provide quality coverage. You're going to get open and we can get you to football.
Brock Bowers is a specialist. He specializes in getting open. That's what he does. What do? I get open. Put anybody on me. Cornerbacks, safeties, linebackers, and I get open. And I do it consistently. Okay, well, can you stretch the field? Yes. Can you turn a play into one play for a score? Yes, I have breakaway game-breaking speed at the tight end position. I'm 6'3", 6'4". I'm about 230, 235. But when the ball in my hand, you might as well call me a sprinter because I'm trying to get in that zone. How many touchdowns? 13. For a career? No, as a freshman. What? 13 touchdowns? Yes, double-digit touchdowns at the receiver position. That's productivity. That means I'm getting it done. How many catches do you average a game? Doesn't matter. How many yards do you average a game? Doesn't matter. I get first downs, touchdowns, impact the game. So BJ, Kevin, he is a weapon. He's not a mismatch nightmare. He's a weapon. Didn't he have a rushing touchdown? I mean, the kid can do it all. I mean, basically every offensive coordinator wants a toy. All of them do. I want a toy. I got this kid named Brock Bowers, right? When I watch what this kid does, and that's what they do. He makes the playbook expand, but all those plays they all call for him. So I'm just saying, I love to see him do what he does. I'm a fan of these players first, like I said, and Brock Bowers is about as good as I've seen, BJ, and obviously that's some unique company. Now, we talking about tight end play in the SEC. You got some big names, but I don't think nobody came out the gate like this.
Yeah, and I think, as you mentioned, Kevin, NFL scouts already looking at this guy going, What year is this? What year is he? I mean, this guy is a generational talent at that position.
Absolutely. We've got much more to come here on 3 and Out. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio, 912-342-7184. We'll give away one of Ben's books, Uncommon and Unfinished, the Ben Troop story, a little bit later in the show. So keep listening for your chance to win. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here on this Wednesday. We'll have your opportunity to win Ben's book coming up in just a little bit. A signed copy of Uncommon and Unfinished, the Ben Troop story written by BJ Bennett. So we'll do that coming up next hour. So keep listening for your chance to win. John Lastinger going to join us, former Georgia quarterback. We'll get his thoughts on what took place there on Monday night. And of course, Georgia fans, the partying is continuing. And I saw Darren Ravel on Twitter put out a tweet that was probably the most well done moment that we've seen. But in less than 24 hours, Georgia had bought more merch. Georgia Bulldog fans and Georgia Bulldogs had sold more merch on Fanatics than the previous bestseller, which was Alabama 2021, did in the 30 days after winning their title. And obviously, some factors play into that. One, that was Alabama's latest title. So unless you're saying, well, I got the 2018 jersey,
Yeah.
I need to get the 2020 jersey. So have to do that. But Georgia also, this is like 40 years of stash under the mattress money where now everybody's got to get their championship merch, right? I mean, it's like the Atlanta Braves. Nobody had seen this happen in like 25 years. You're going to buy the World Series gear, right? You're going to be like, they won it. This is double that almost. So it's like 40 years of frustration. What, are you not going to buy the championship merch if you're a Georgia fan? You know, it's like it's going to happen. So not surprising. The least surprising thing that has happened in 2022 to date.
No, the buildup. I mean, this has been, you've released the Kraken of anticipation and energy and excitement. I mean, this is like, it's taking over. It's taking over everywhere you look. It's Georgia football, the title, the championship, 1980.
And there's like the minimum amount of merch you're going to buy is, probably a couple $100. I mean, you got to get the shirt, you got to get the hat, probably got to get the Coke bottles, the commemorative Coke bottles, all kind of stuff. Yeah.
Here's the 8x10. No, you're getting it all. And everybody you see at some point will have a Georgia championship. I mean, I don't even know if you're a fan of Florida, I'm not saying like or if you're a Georgia Tech fan, but I think if you're even like a casual sports fan in the state, because it's such a historic moment, even if you're not, I've been a Bulldog fan my whole life, dude, Georgia just won it's the story of a generation.
Yeah.
So
and it's a nice color complement to the Carolina national championship that you wear in the fall. I was saying that's
you got the Georgia football.
Yeah, you got the Georgia
Duke
football
Carolina
national championship, and then you got the Coach K Farewell Tour championship to complete the Georgia ensemble.
Everybody's giggling. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. Okay. But
it's funny because it's true.
It is true. It is true. BJ and Kevin and Kevin and BJ used to be a time where your team wins it, and you go out and get something commemorated. Okay, I'm gonna get something. Now you can't even show up to the celebration. They saying, "Hey, dude, where you get your shirt from?" No, I mean, I got it. No. This is authentic stuff now. They checking labels. They say, what I'm saying? You got the people tweeting out, I mean, look, man, he got a confirmation number. He got a freaking order number, man. But no, but Kevin did say, if you Alabama, you thinking like, yeah, man, like, we've been here a minute. You Georgia, hey, you should be ready to go out there and get that authentic stuff because BJ, just like I know, you listen, if Georgia would have did the UCF, okay, I get that part. You're not doing the Mickey Mouse national championship gear. That's ridiculous. But you got to go.
Kevin. Got a minute. What is the weirdest thing you think somebody will slap a 2021 championship thing on a piece of merch? Like, there's going to be dog collars and cat toys and all kind of stuff like that. But what is like the weirdest?
Oh my God! Listen, I'm gonna say it right now. We live in Georgia. It's gonna be so many 2021 national championship belt buckles like you ain't never seen in your freaking life. I'm telling it's gonna be because Kevin, it's about something you can wear all the time. They throwing it on and they're gonna be like, wait, I'm saying, oh my God, man. So the belt buckles is there. And, I mean, it's Georgia. They will come up with something very, very unique. I mean, them red overalls going to have to get, something tatted, painted on them now because I'm just saying, you hurt my eyes.
Get the tire replaced. What tire do you want? We got the ones with the G 2021 on it. No.
The 2021 national championship rims. There you go.
Hey, Kevin, and don't think somebody don't take his idea. Kevin Thomas took my idea, man. I was just finna do it.
I'm sure somebody will at the end of the day. We got more to come. John Lastinger going to join us when we return, former Georgia quarterback, and we'll talk national championship with him here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Love to hear from you on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. to have you here, 3 and Out. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, final hour of the program. Glad you are with us. Thanks for making us a part of your day. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're also streaming live at ESPNCoastal.com. You can also see us live video streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. Georgia still reveling in the national championship it brought home on Monday night. Joining us here on the program, former Georgia quarterback, won the 82 SEC championship, won the 1984 Cotton Bowl as well. John Lastinger joining us here on 3 and Out. John, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really good this week, and I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. And again, so much has tied up into the 1980. I know you came and played quarterback on the heels of that 1980 championship, but as someone who was right there in the immediate future, you've kind of been around for the entirety of this gap between national championships there at Georgia. How much does that mean what happened on Monday night, and just how heavy do you think that weight had gotten on the program, even though players are like, look, I wasn't even born in 1980, much less know what that was all about. How much of that weight do you think had built up over the last several years before you were finally able to get it done on Monday night?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting that you bring that up, because I do think it probably had more of an impact on those of us that, as you said, had kind of weathered the 41-year drought. Not just us that played in the early 80s, but a lot of fans too. So probably a little unfair to throw it on some of the kids, like you said, that are coming up that weren't even born back then. So, but it's neat in that. Our 40-year reunion for the 80 team, which I obviously played on, but was redshirted because I hurt my knee that year. But we didn't get to have our 40-year reunion in 2020 because of COVID, and so we had it this fall. Which you almost think that there was something, a higher calling for us to have it this year, and then the season turned out the way it did. But it's and we every time we've had a reunion, always says, somebody stands up and says, until it's not about us, it's still about us, and we all laugh. But what we quickly followed that was, we're ready for somebody to come join us, and so just really, really happy for this group to get that got it done.
And John, Stetson Bennett, I mean, the national story, the iconic story. What has been so special about his game that has helped Georgia get to this point? And you played and won some big games during your career, but look at the last 2 games alone. Stetson Bennett near perfect against Michigan in the Orange Bowl, and then the fourth quarter of the game Monday night, just absolutely clutch down the stretch. What does that say about him, and what makes this guy so special?
Well, and I haven't, I've never met Stetson, and I know I've got some friends in Blackshear, and they all just rave about, what a great kid and a great family that he comes from. I think he has kind of a captivating personality, and I mean, his story, to show up, I mean, had chances to go to small colleges, probably receive some form of a scholarship, but he wanted to walk on at Georgia. But then to walk off from Georgia and go to a junior college because he wanted to play, and go have some incredible success in 1 year in junior college, and then come back on scholarship, only to be just about kicked to the curb again at the beginning of last year when he was 3rd or 4th team. And, his resiliency is incredible. And I think he's just got, as I said, an infectious personality that as time passed, I mean, I think his teammates they looked at him and said, he's our guy. I mean, he is just, we want to go to battle with him. And, I think as far as X's and O's, I mean, he's limited probably in a couple areas, but I mean, I think his ability to get away, use his legs, make a play. I mean, he did it time and time again this year. And I think that was really something that Kirby Smart and that offensive staff really wanted to see.
And John, even sticking with Kirby Smart, you think about a guy that's only been there for 6 years. You look at this as his second national championship appearance and finally getting over the hump with Alabama. Just talk about how much, Kirby has meant to the University of Georgia, passing up obviously a lot of head coaching opportunities because he wanted to be the head coach at Georgia. For a guy to be as young as he is and have as much success as he had so early, I mean, how long can he hold on to this this sustained success to be able to say, hey, man, I know Alabama is the team to beat, but I think we got something to say about it for years to come?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what we've seen is, he's gotten there. He's basically made everybody around him in Athens and within that, football staff office basically raised their game. I mean, he's you hate to say he's relentless, but he kind of is in a lot of areas. I mean, he just, he works them hard, but it's, I think he learned that from that guy over there in Tuscaloosa. I mean, again, yes, I think first and foremost, he's recruited really well. I mean, I think he's been able to hire some really good coaches, but, having said all that, I mean, I do, and yeah, I agree 100%, Ben. I think they're going to, they're in position to be a factor, for the coming years. That said, I mean, the SEC is only going to get tougher. I mean, it's, you got Texas and Oklahoma coming to town soon. Other schools are going to, Tennessee's trying to get it back on track. And I mean, your alma mater, Florida. I mean, they're not going to stay down long. I mean, they got such a recruiting base down there. So, we're excited, on cloud nine this week for sure. And, we hope it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I do think that we've now finally taken it to the next level, and that's certainly important. But, when you do that and you're going to have that bullseye on your back now, and it's just going to get tougher.
John Lastinger joining us here on 3 and Out. And John, obviously, all about some great Georgia defenses those junkyard dog defenses in the 80s. What about this group, though? What did you see when you watched them play? And just to be so dominant all season long, save really one game, and they kind of used that as motivation to get back to the championship. Had a great game on Monday night. But what can you say about this defense and just the game 1 to game 15 effort that you saw out of that group?
Yeah, I mean, they spoiled us. I mean, really, you just you kept thinking, week after week after week, can they keep this up? And of course, for 12 games they did. And then you're right, just didn't have a great day against Alabama in the SEC championship, and had a couple injuries in the secondary, and you might could question the secondary a little bit. I mean, again, I said that's probably unfair. I mean, it's a defense that blitzed an awful lot. I mean, they come after you, and as Ben knows, I mean, when you blitz, you're playing a lot of man coverage behind them, so you gotta. I mean, cornerback safeties they gotta be sharp. I mean, they've gotta break up passes. I mean, a lot of 50-50 balls that they've gotta, get after break up. So, but I mean, Nakobe Dean, I think he starts with him. That guy, oh man, he is just I've heard so many people talk about what a great young man he is, and he's just a heck of a ball player. And I mean, I think he just held everybody. I mean, I think Nolan Smith, another one who down from Savannah, you had 3 or 4 guys that just held everybody accountable, and it just spread. And I mean, I think it was just special to watch them. They were really good.
It's really cool to hear you and other players from Georgia's golden era talk about the memories and the shared relationships and what it's like years later, reflecting on those times. What do you think it's going to be like for these guys when they, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, look back and say, we won the national championship, we beat Alabama, and who knows, we may kind of set in motion a new modern dynasty type program a la Alabama or a program like that. What do you think these memories and moments are going to be like for these players down the line?
Well, I just hope they stay connected. I mean, and because it's really more about friendships and relationships that you make. I mean, again, it's just, 40 years, actually 41 years, for us when we had that reunion, and you go to them, and life hits you right square in the face when you look around, and there's a couple of them that aren't here. They're no longer with us, and so these, that's not something these guys need to be thinking about right now. But I just hope that those relationships, stay much like ours for the 1980 team, because we're just a close bunch. They got N'Kobe Dean. We have a guy named Frank Ross. I mean, he's just held this team together. I mean, it doesn't, just about once a month, you're going to get an email from Frank Ross that's going out to everybody on the 80 team, not just players, managers, trainers, sometimes even assistant coaches, just updating us on, hey, somebody needs help, or somebody's not, they're sick, keep them in your prayers, those kind of things. Or, hey, we're getting together in Atlanta, or, hey, we're doing this. And it's just, it's been amazing. And I got to think that this group will do something like that, because they've got the same, I just think they got the same DNA. And I just, more than anything, I just hope that those relationships stay there, and that in 40 years from now, I won't be here, but they'll be going to reunions and hugging each other and reliving the same memories that we did.
And John, even expound on that a little more. I think often the times people think, you play with a team, and people think that, you just like keep in touch with these guys, and obviously you got your core set of guys that or the core set of guys you came in with, but you need something that bonds us together for life. Nothing does that more than a national championship. And you talk about, I do agree when you talk about the fact that, guys are here today, gone today, not here today, gone tomorrow. How important is having something like this to know, hey man, how we did it, who we did it against is going to make it so that, look, we want to make sure that this is not just a moment in time. This becomes our moment in time that carries us for the rest of our lives.
Oh, listen, you're so right. And it's a resume type thing. You go get a job and somebody looks like, and you say, well, and again, N'Kobe Dean's probably got an NFL career in front of him for sure. But, as that may not last long. But to go in there and say, hey, I was the team captain of the 2021 University of Georgia football team. That can take you a long way. And it's just, again, I think it's, it's just, it helps you further down in life. You're going to be dealt some adversity, in some form or fashion. It's just, and I just think that you can draw from that. And I don't, you can, playing football, playing any organized sport. You can draw from things that happen out there between the lines. And that probably transcends just somebody winning the championship. But I do think it gets magnified when you win a championship, because the work that you put in was worth it.
John Lastinger joining us here on 3 and Out. John, I want to kind of follow up with something you said, because we talked to Buck Belue earlier, and I kind of joked like, hey, it's a club of two guys right now, the starting quarterback who won a national championship. But as a guy who has that ring, what is it going to be like for these guys? Because that is in this state, it means so much, and it's a very small fraternity, as you said. Like, hey, we wanted some company. Like, we had 40 years waiting for somebody to join us, and now you have those guys. What is that like to, as you said, for people can maybe have an idea, but to walk around in the state of Georgia and say, yeah, I won a national title at Georgia. I played on that team, and it's more than just one team now, but just what is that like? Because I don't think a lot of people truly understand what happened on Monday night and how it affects these guys for the rest of their lives off the field. Yeah, well, it's of course, when you talk about, national championship winning quarterbacks, that's a fraternity of two. I'm not in that one. I had a chance. I got real close, losing to Penn State in the national championship game in '83, in the '83 Sugar Bowl against Todd Blackledge and Penn State. Bigger than just the quarterback position. I think those, it is. They're there. They're, like I said, it's, we, as the 80 team, we say it's not about us anymore. Somebody sent an email out today, like, hey, we got to welcome a whole nother bunch to the family, and it's just, I think that's, that is special, I guess. Something that I never really thought about it. It's like, hey, now we're one big family, and we got some new family members. So,
Yeah, I mean, I just, yeah, it's big. I mean, it really is, and it's, you gotta, and like I said, at some point, some of the, just the exhilaration of the game will wear off, and I mean, to me, like I said, that goes back to those relationships and just being, just having that bond there that's really important.
John Lastinger, former Georgia quarterback, our guest here on Three and Out. John, really appreciate the time. I know everybody in Bulldog Nation enjoying this one, and we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Hey guys, appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate it. John Lastinger joining us here on Three and Out. And again, what a story. As he said, we've got new members to the family of national champions there in Athens. We got more to come here. It's Three and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here, 3 and Out. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you're making us a part of your day. We'll give away a copy of Uncommon and Unfinished, Ben Troop story coming up here in just a little bit. But we've talked about Monday night from a number of different angles, BJ and Ben, but something that Georgia's been kind of known for, not talked about a whole lot in Monday night. That's the run game, which showed up at opportune times. Of course, a James Cook huge run to set up the first touchdown. And then when Georgia needed to burn clock late in the game, we're able to do that through the power run game.
Yeah, I think so many storylines to process, Stetson Bennett, the defense, but I do think it's worth mentioning the job those running backs did in that national championship game where the James Cook run was one of the turning points of the game, one of the, I think, real moments where you point and looked and went, oh, okay, now I feel like we can move the football and confidently attack Alabama and close this thing out late. And then you talk about Zamir White. He had the first touchdown of the afternoon. It was a field goal game until Zamir White was able to get in the end zone. But yeah, James Cook with the late play where I think that confidence was really reinforced and validated. And you started to look around and go, we're going to win this thing. I feel really good about us winning this thing. And also great point late. I know we focus on the Bowers touchdown, and understandably so. Bennett to Bowers, one of the great throws there in Georgia history, but you were able to move deep into Alabama territory and really lean on the Crimson Tide with Cook and White and those guys running the ball. So Georgia's running back, these running backs on this roster have added to that legacy. But really, really good efforts. You think about Cook, what he did in the Orange Bowl as well, but really good efforts from the running backs on Monday night as well. Worth mentioning that.
Yeah, BJ. I mean, isn't it ironic, even Kevin, that when you think about Georgia, when it's all said and done, they lean on what they've always done. And I give a lot of credit to Zamir White and Cook and those guys because they come into Georgia based off what they saw. They saw Sony Michel, they saw Nick Chubb and those guys. They was like, dude, I want that. But the greatest thing a running back has is his ability to adjust. I remember Zamir White, I think, was the number one running back in the country when he first got to Georgia. He tore his ACL. He missed the entire season. And people was thinking, okay, what type of career is he going to have? I mean, he had double-digit touchdowns and back-to-back seasons over 2,000 yards. That's a great career. But we've gotten so adjusted to seeing guys go 20 and 30. No, double-digit touchdowns at the running back position is about as good as you can be. But Zamir White, he stayed the course. People was thinking, because he was another one of those big late additions last year, saying, I'm coming back, when people could say, is he going to go on and go to the National Football League? But I credit those guys because your greatest recruiter is the kids that's already playing for you. When they see the way Cook and Zamir White, and McIntosh and those guys, they don't complain. They just go out there and do what they ask. Because Georgia have won every game, just won the football this year. Yeah. But they said, look, we want you guys to be complimentary. We know we used to run the offense through you guys, but we got Stetson Bennett or whatever, so we're going to let him throw it a little bit. He got this freshman tight end named Brock Bowers. Because I will say that when everybody went down, I thought it was going to be the running game, right, Kevin, right, BJ? George Pickens goes down. Eric Gilbert never got there on campus. Who's going to be your guy? Was it going to be Burton? Was it going to be Kerry Jackson? But whatever you needed to run, go back to the first game of the season. They needed to seal the win. How did they get it? Running the football to seal that win against Clemson. So I give those guys a lot of credit. I know that Cook had decided obviously he's moving on to go pro. But when you look back at the Georgia running back, BJ, the Sony Michels, the Nick Chubbs, the Tigers and those guys, as great as they were, they don't got that. Don't be the thing if you ain't got that ring. And them boys got that ring. And I think it just proves that what one guy started, somebody else got to finish. Whoever ever thought it was going to be Cook. And old Zebo, a.k.a. Zamir White, highlight them boys. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, and again, the run game, I think, largely unheralded for most of this season because it was about why is Stetson starting? Is it going to be JT Daniels? Who's going to step up at wide receiver? Look at this kid, Brock Bowers, who's just going bananas, and the defense is all worldly. You kind of really forgot about the run game, right? I mean, you just throughout the season, you didn't talk about it very much. It was just you got kind of chalked it up like, hey, you got 3-4 guys that you could throw back there and you'll get the job done. But everybody's eyes were everywhere else on that field. But the running game, which again, in the clutch moments, took care of business for you.
Absolutely. Really good group, good depth. And I think played an important role in Georgia winning a national championship and played an important role on Monday night, especially late in that game. But Ben, you mentioned Cook. I mean, see what you guys think. I think he's got a lot to offer an NFL team. I mean, go back to his run on Monday night, go back to the Orange Bowl, go back to late in the season, especially. His productivity was on clear display. Love the versatility. He's not a back that has been worn down by 500 carries in college. He's a guy that can step in, be an every down player for you. I think has the home run ability, but can also run between the tackles, can carry the load. And then in the passing game, he is more than proven. So I'm excited to see what Cook can do at the next level, as he announced today, entering the NFL draft.
Well, yeah, BJ, and I think you just said it. I mean, it used to be a time where by the time these Georgia running backs get to the National Football League, their best years are behind them because they've had so much wear and tear. The goal of any offense is to showcase what a player can do, not with every single carry. I'm going to show what you can do in the run game. I'm going to show what you can do in the passing game, because what they're really doing is saying, look, most guys need a lot of opportunities to be impactful. No, you guys get limited opportunities while knowing I'm going to have to share the load, and you're still getting double-digit rushing touchdowns, not to mention what they do in the receiving game. So, proud of those boys, because I'm telling you, there ain't a player. A player has to understand his role when you first get to college. Then he has to accept his role. Then he has to go out there and and actually prove what he can and can't do on the field. And I give those guys a lot of credit. Everybody wants to be the headliner in sports. I don't care what anybody says, but to know you go, hey man, y'all a group. What? No. It's Zamir and James. Okay, and as long as you're winning, it's easy to do it. So I give those guys a lot of credit. I know coming into college, they thought they were going to be the feature back, but the feature back has changed. Now you got the feature back as far as look, one guy may do this better than that guy, but when all said and done, Zamir White, you got to score a touchdown in the national championship with everything he's been through in his career. James Cook, everybody thought you was going to Florida State to follow your brother. Nope. And now you get to say you're a national champion. So shout out to those running backs, man. I'm telling you guys, whenever these future running backs see the current running backs, you already know what the standard is because of who you are, who you finna share the same room with.
Yeah, we've got so much more to get to on the show. But what we do want to do, Ben, is we've been doing it every Wednesday. We do want to give away a signed copy of Uncommon and Unfinished, the Ben Troop story here on the show. So caller number 4. Right now, 912-342-7184, 912-342-7184. Caller 4 will get a signed copy of your book. I know, Ben, a lot of people who have been reading it have really enjoyed it and have said, look, I knew about Ben, the football player. I'm learning more about Ben, the guy, and kind of what makes you. So I think it's a really good opportunity for somebody to win a copy of it. If you don't win a copy, bentroop84.com. I'm being your pitch man in all the right ways.
And then, I'm Kevin. Listen, Kevin, you got to call it again. Listen, my book is finished. I am not, but yes, I mean, Uncommon and Unfinished, the Ben Troop story with BJ Bennett. Yes, always available at bentroop84.com. But the fourth caller, 912-342-7184. I will say this: there are a lot of things I have done in my lifetime. Nothing I am outside of my children, man, and my family. There aren't too many things I'm as proud of as I am when it comes to this book, because I hope that the book resonates with you. I hope that you hear you, even though it's coming from me and BJ's words. And I never ever thought that I would be able to give something to the world like this, but I'm enjoying it, Kevin. I'm enjoying the feedback. But yes, the fourth caller will get a signed copy of Uncommon and Unfinished, the Ben Troop story with BJ Bennett, 912-342-7184. And as Kevin Thomas said, my book is finished. I am not.
And Ben will even sign it 2008.
If you're a Georgia fan, I might put a little trash talk in there, even though it ain't gonna mean nothing.
Fourth caller, 912-342-7184. Call right now. We're giving away a copy of Uncommon Unfinished, the Ben Troop story. Love to hear from you. Call right now. Got lines open. Going to give that book away today. We'll do one every week on the show leading up to the Super Bowl. We'll come back with more 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network.
Hello, this is Artis Gilmore, Basketball Hall of Fame. You're listening to 3 and Out with BJ, Ben, and Kevin.
Good to have you back here. 3 and Out on this Wednesday. Georgia, national champions of college football, and the party's still continuing there for Bulldog Nation. Bulldog Nation probably going to be going for quite some time. And joining us here on the program, he won the national championship in 1980 there at quarterback of the Dogs. Buck Belue joins us here on 3 and Out. Buck, welcome. How are you?
Man, we are doing well. We are just so thrilled to see this team win the national title, and this fan base can now relax because, look, man, they've been catching all this static from Florida fans, Tennessee fans, Auburn fans, Alabama fans, Clemson fans. They don't have to put up with that anymore, man. I'm so happy for the Bulldog Nation. They won't have to hear any more about how they hadn't won a title since 1980.
I was going to say, Buck, you've been in a very exclusive club, the starting quarterback to win a national championship. And as you said, it's just been you hanging out in there. Now you got yourself a little company with Stetson Bennett. What can you say about that young man in the face of adversity, not only from other people, but a lot of times some of the own fan base who thought there might be a better option out there?
Well, I tell you, in the playoffs, Stetson played at such a high level, and it was so great to see. I thought he played his best game against Michigan in the Orange Bowl, and then he backed it up with another tremendous performance against Alabama on Monday night. Just really happy for him, the way he stepped up. And look, man, hosting a radio show here in Atlanta 6 days a week during the college football season, I felt like all along, just my independent poll, there were about 70-80% of the Bulldog Nation that were totally behind Stetson Bennett. So it's a lot like, sports talk radio. You can't please all the people any of the time as a quarterback. So I thought he dealt with that, really awesome. As a matter of fact, he's got a lot to be proud of.
Buck, the resiliency of Stetson Bennett at the end of that game. You had the controversial review, the fumble, Alabama takes the lead. And then from that point, Bennett is 5 of 5 for 83 yards with 2 touchdowns. Talk about that finish to the game and just having that confidence to bounce back and lead Georgia to a victory late.
Well, he's just so mentally tough. The perseverance he's gone through to get where he's at. It just didn't seem to be any problem at all. I thought his best throw was the touchdown pass to Ad Mitchell late in the game. Just dropped a dime on that touchdown pass. And, I don't think that was a fumble either. I'm sorry. Just after looking at the replay, man, I see his arm moving forward when that ball came out of there. So, I'm just going to say Stetson played that game without turning the ball over, which was huge. In the game, Georgia winning the turnover battle.
And Buck, when you think about who he did it against, I mean, obviously Alabama's been a thorn in Georgia's side and their side as of late. And then going back to when you guys won it against Notre Dame, what is it about winning against a team like Alabama, who is the premier school in college football right now?
Man, I tell you, in 1980, we were able to take down Notre Dame, which, is a blue blood program. And, we couldn't have picked out a better opponent to be able to do something special like that. And to beat Alabama right now, we're seeing the Crimson Tide under Nick Saban. This is the greatest run of success in college football history. So for Georgia to get that second opportunity and then cash in, win the national title, that's got to be a great feeling. And that's something they're going to hold close to them for decades to come, being able to get over that Alabama hump and take down Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide.
Buck Belue joining us here on 3 and Out. And Buck, you talk about everybody obviously can appreciate what it means for the University of Georgia to finally break through. But what does it mean to be a national champion quarterback, head coach at Georgia and carry that around with you in this state? Because up until Monday night, it was you and Vince Dooley that kind of had those distinctions, a head coach, a quarterback to bring it home. What does that mean now for Stetson and Kirby Smart to kind of be able to go around this state as I'm the head coach, I'm the quarterback that won the national championship at the University of Georgia?
Well, they're going to be loved for years to come. As I mentioned off the top, this Bulldog Nation is passionate, a college football fan base as there is in the country. And look, they're going to get loved on for years to come. Stetson my experience tells me he's going to play some free golf. It seems like all these superintendents and golf pros somehow have a connection to Georgia. So I hope we can tee it up a little bit, but they'll always be remembered for breaking the drought, the streak. And let's be honest here, Georgia should have won multiple national titles since that 1980 game. Gosh, just recently, I think about 2012, Aaron Murray and the Dogs had Alabama on the ropes there late in the game, and that one slipped away. And then Jake Fromm in 2017, they're in overtime in the Natty. Got Alabama down, and Tua hits the big pass to win the game for Alabama. I mean, this drought should have never taken place.
Buck, I know you guys had an iconic defense in 1980. This defense doing some things statistically that we haven't seen in a generation. Talk about watching and covering this defense all season and how good they were on Monday night.
I was talking today about this might be the best defensive line in Georgia football history. And we look at 1980 at our team, and I believe totally that you're not going to win a national championship unless you're winning on the line of scrimmage. And our defensive line, Jimmy Payne was an All-American player. He was sort of reminds me of Trayvon Walker. We had Eddie Meat Cleaver Weaver in the middle at nose tackle, and he was taking on double teams and wreaking havoc. And Jordan Davis sort of filled that role on this team. We had some others too. Tim Crow, Joe Creemans, Tim Parks. I mean, we were rushing quality guys on the D-line in and out of the game. And that's what we've seen out of Georgia here too. And really anxious to see the defensive line. I think will be one of the key spots here moving forward next season. Jalen Carter has just had an outstanding run so far as an underclassman. And I think he'll be a guy that'll be leading the way starting next season. Big number 88 in there as a force.
And Buck, I know Kevin asked you about, before Monday night, yourself and Vince Dooley, with the head coach and, quarterback to say they won the national championship. What is that conversation going to be like, Buck, with you and Stetson Bennett, a guy who not just did it his way, represented way more than just himself, that everybody's going to have that, he can't get it done because of this, because of that. What is going to be that conversation with you and him if y'all do get a chance to have that sit down?
Well, I spoke with him early December, and I was one of those doubters too. I prefer an offense that's going to throw that football around. That's just my personal choice, and so I'm wondering why isn't JT Daniels in there is the starter, who totally unlocked that passing game last season. And so I was the one that was doubting on the decision and what was going on. But let me tell you, during the late in the season, Stetson Bennett, he just won me over with his play. And look, I was hoping he would do well all along, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I had some doubts earlier in the season about not getting JT Daniels in there.
Buck Belue joining us here on 3 and Out. And Buck, as you said, the team to finally break that streak and get over the hump. What does this mean for Georgia moving forward? Because a lot of times you see something like that, it's like the hardest part to do is finally break through. Georgia is one of the top 1 or 2, 3 teams in the country recruiting every single year. I think 3 teams, all of them in the SEC, but 3 teams got like 30 or 40% of the ESPN top 100 recruits all went to those same 3 schools. I mean, Georgia's set up to continue to be a player on that Monday night showcase game for a while. Is this breakthrough moment maybe the start of, I don't want to say an Alabama type run because we've never seen anything like that, but is this a start of something where it could become a regular thing to see Georgia in the mix there on that Monday night playing for it all?
Yeah, I would expect, and I bet a lot of the competition out there is expecting to see Georgia to hang around here, knocking on the door like they have been since 2017. So I don't know, they're not going anywhere. And look, Kirby, being a Georgia man, born and bred, so to speak, he's not going to parlay this into another big job, try to jump to the National Football League. So I just think he's going to be around for a while. And as you mentioned, with the stockpile of talent they've accumulated, they should be back knocking on the door next season. I mean, look at the offensive line. They're going to lose Sawyer, who, to me, his stock has skyrocketed after beating up on Aiden Hutchinson at Michigan and then being able to handle Will Anderson and the SEC title game did a good job, and this national championship game. They got Broderick Jones, who we saw come in late in the game against Alabama and play some left offensive tackle. Amarius Mims is another one that looks like he's a plug-and-play guy. So, the offensive line looks like it's going to be really, really solid. They got those linebackers lined up deep. The running backs lined up deep on offense. Receivers, they continue to bring in these receivers. Say the offense looks good, whether Stetson comes back or regardless of who transfers. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that quarterback room is going to change. Defensively, a little concerned about the D-line. And certainly the linebacker spot, to me, is one of the key areas where they've got to address trying to replace Nakobe Dean. I'm guessing he's a first-round pick, and he's probably going to exit early. Quay Walker is a big-time player. 41, Channing Tindall was tremendous this season. So I'm a little concerned about the linebacker spot next season. But, again, a lot of talent. You got the transfer portal. You got these young guys that had a year to get coached up. I think they're just going to be fine coming into next season. Can't wait to see that Oregon game to get the year started as we take on Dan Lanning and the Ducks.
I was going to say, we've seen it with Nick Saban just replacing guys there at coordinator. How does anything change with Dan Lanning out? I mean, it's still Kirby Smart's defense at the end of the day, correct?
Yeah, and look, that defensive staff, I mean, my goodness, man, talk about a great staff. You got Kirby, Dan Lanning, Glenn Schumann, who's done a really great job, Will Muschamp. I mean, my goodness, there's not a better defensive staff in the country. So they should be able to absorb that and be able to move on. But Dan Lanning was special, guys. I mean, he was able to recruit and coach, and so they're going to miss him.
Buck Belue, our guest here on 3 and Out. Buck, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Hey, good being on with you.
Appreciate it. Buck Belue joining us here on 3 and Out Georgia, the national champions of college football. We've got so much more to get to here on this Wednesday. Love to hear from you. 912-342-7184, 912-342-7184. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along 3 and Out on this Wednesday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us here all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Coming up Friday, we're going to be live at the Inmark Savannah Hockey Classic. Looking forward to that from the Savannah Civic Center. Final time at the Savannah Civic Center before it moves over to the Inmarket Arena. But you got Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida State going at it in hockey. Looking forward to that, and we'll be on hand there at the Savannah Civic Center. Come out and enjoy it. It's a great event if you've never been. It'll be a lot of fun watching those 4 teams get after it out there on the ice.
It is a lot of fun, and the passion and the pride that you would expect is there. I mean, it's a rivalry on the ice just as it is in every other sport, and it's a great fan event. When you think about those programs and those fans and the rooting interests and the rivalries, of course, clearly. So looking forward to being out there, and we're all going to get out there because I've been out there, made a fool of myself. Ben, we're going to get you on the ice. That's my mission for later in the week. Get you guys on the ice and see how it goes.
So that's what you want to do? I mean, I love my ankles. You want me to break both of them? I mean, early in 2022.
Stand up, man. I literally couldn't maintain.
So what you think I'm gonna do? Oh, you couldn't stand up. What am I gonna do?
I mean, you're an athlete. Kevin's an athlete.
Kevin is an extreme athlete.
No, I have to get my balance first, then I'm all right. Cam, have you been ice skating before? Are you like what? Who's like a big Olympian? Are you Wayne Gretzky or something going out there like skating around? Like, I'm from Georgia, man. I don't know. I don't like grow up with a pair of ice skates on my feet.
Ryan Sewell didn't do well either.
I don't ride around on a thin blade underneath my feet. I don't do that.
Cam can teach us.
But once I get going, I'm okay. But it takes a minute just to kind of get initiated to the ice. I live in Georgia. I'm not Gordon Bombay on a pond in Minnesota.
Oh, we know. It takes an incredible amount of athlete because you're standing up, you're skating, you got the stick, you got the puck, and then you got to look for, are you about to get, decleated or de-skated or whatever? I mean, a lot going on.
We got more to come here on 3 Now. We'll see you tomorrow. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. If you missed any portion of the show, ESPNCoastal.com, iTunes, or go to our YouTube page at ESPN Coastal.